So why don't we just start there? I think the question that I'm getting almost daily at this point is, are we in a bubble? So
Absolutely.
when you look at your marketplace, do you believe that we're in a bubble? Hello and welcome. I'm Matt Thomas with Baird & Warner Real Estate here in Chicago, and I'm super excited to kick off a new series of content today, totally focused on family, on real estate. I'm excited to welcome my favorite real estate agent and my mom, Sue Thomas, to the show. So, Mom, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Matt. Thanks for inviting me to be a part of this today.
So it's pretty rare, I think, that you have family business like this, where we've gone into it kind of naturally over time. I didn't just join your team. We just found our way to the same industry almost indirectly. Could you talk a little bit about where you work? Obviously, I'm here in Chicago. It's a very urban kind of marketplace. Where are you?
Well, I started my career in Arizona and I worked for 17 years selling residential real estate, and Matt was on my hip a lot of the time when I was going to work. So that's how that sort of osmosis began. Now I've been in Bucks County, Pennsylvania since 2004. And so 34 years for those of you doing math. And I feel like the market has shifted many, many times over, but this one's very interesting. So I'm excited to talk about it today.
Absolutely. And that's really the goal today. I think the perspective that we bring is twofold. One, I'm in a very urban marketplace. You're in what I would consider a suburban marketplace. Mm-hmm. Two, obviously, there's the family dynamics here. I've been doing this for what I would consider a short amount of time, about 4 years now. You've obviously been doing this a very long time. So I think it'd be interesting just to approach it from two different perspectives. Mm-hmm. So why don't we just start there? I think the question that I'm getting almost daily at this point is, are we in a bubble? So
Absolutely.
When you look at your marketplace, do you believe that we're in a bubble?
It's an interesting question. We all read a lot of industry information and we live it every day. And I've been through the bubble. I worked through the bubble. And if you recall back in the time when that really occurred, back in 2006, 7, 8, 9, that whole time was when the banking industry was on fire. And if you had a breath in your body, you could borrow money and buy a house. And it was a big mistake. We laugh about it because there used to be NINA, which was no income, no assets, and SISA, which is stated income, stated assets. And really, it should have been NINJA, no income, no job or assets. Like, just make it up and buy a house. So that's a big part of why we had such a crash, because people who were making far below where they should have been for the home they were buying just couldn't maintain that property. And there were also lending options at that time. Option arms were a big one. And you could either make the payment or not make the payment. Mm-hmm. Guess what people chose? And then when the market shifted and they couldn't sell their homes, they couldn't make the payment. So we had a lot of foreclosures. Now we have much more stringent rules, right? The banking, now the rules went way over here.
Yeah, I would say it went the other way, right? I'm finding it very difficult to get certain clients approved, especially if they're like self-employed, or it's become harder.
It has. And to some degree, we need to kind of edge it back up. But because of those rules that are in place and because everybody's watching now, the analysts and the people that really have a good handle on things seem to feel that this is not a traditional bubble. There will be a correction for sure.
Right.
You can't trajectory, forever. But is it going to be like the last time where we kind of took a nosedive literally overnight? We're hoping not, and the analysts are thinking not. I think really in my market here, we will probably level off and start to slowly simmer down.
Yeah, I tend to agree. In the city, we're seeing something similar. We went through now this rocket ship that we're seeing in terms of home values. I think it's probably more so in the suburban markets. I'm seeing multiple offers being overbid by a higher percentage on single family homes out of the city than I am in our downtown metro market. That said, the city of Chicago as a whole, we're up about 10% year over year, which is excellent compared to a standard year of like 2%. So I do think things will start to slow down. We've seen it where we've had consistent inventory increases month over month. We've had buyer activity that's met that. So it's been pretty busy. But just this last month, we started to see things taper off. So we're seeing multiple offers start to come down, or at least the number of multiple offer situations have come down. We're seeing prices or bidding wars start to slow down a little bit or start to come back to reality. And we're seeing new listings that are coming on market that they're pricing more in a traditional model. It's no longer trying to take advantage of these super high prices. They seem to be back in alignment with where I think is reality, if you will. So I think it sounds like you might still be in the midst of some of the craziness happening. I'm seeing in Chicago, we're starting to get back to regular. Slowly but surely, we're starting to move towards normal.
Well, just this week, we're starting to feel a shift, but you have to remember really what drove this whole thing was COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was a fear-based knee jerk. And so here in my market, we had people moving, 2 blocks to get a home office or to get a pool for the kids who are now home 24/7 or someplace for grandma to live. And so that's why people were making shifts more so than any other reason. And we're still seeing that, but school is letting out this week here. And seasonality tells us that generally that's when we slow down. Everybody goes on vacation. So we'll see. I'm starting to feel a little bit of simmer.
Maybe that's a good transition here. I wonder, do you think that seasonality will be different in your market because of COVID? Chicago, I would say traditionally we have a very busy spring. It starts to slow down around June, July. August is dead. You might as well go on vacation. And then people come back, right? We see the fall market kind of pick back up, and winter's actually been pretty strong the last few years.
Yeah, we have pretty much the same seasonality. I used to tell people up until last year that it's like a light switch. It goes on one day, and I pretty much know when that day is.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes off the same way. So if you recall when you were little, we always went on vacation in August because it was a big snore. And December's a big snore.
Yeah.
But the rest of the time, you have a lot of activities. Spring market depends on weather. If we have a warm winter, spring is January too.
Mm-hmm.
If we have a cold winter, it might be Super Bowl Sunday. So I think we'll get back there, but I think we're still in that I have to get something before school starts. Oh, and by the way, I don't have to go back to work anymore. I can work from anywhere.
Right.
So I'm seeing clients moving to Florida. I'm seeing New Yorkers come here because they don't have to live in the city anymore. They can work from here. So I think that's going to forever change how things look, but I do believe we're going to start to simmer down.
When I think about just the bubble or the indicators that we might be heading into a bubble and what everybody's really thinking about, I think what would probably confuse me the most if I wasn't in this industry is just understanding, okay, if prices are skyrocketing now, how do they not crash, right? How do they not come back to where they are? So when you look at your marketplace, what do you see the next 6 to 9 months kind of looking like for you? Obviously you're anticipating some sort of pricing correction. Do you think inventory will keep going up? Do you think it'll be a little more balanced market than a seller's market? Where is it headed?
So I watch inventory every day, as do you. I watch the hot sheet 4 or 5 times a day. And, during COVID, we had days, or right after COVID let up, I should say, we had days where we had nothing. And then we would have 10 homes in a day. And then it jumped to 15 homes and 20 homes. And so we had that big ramp up. Well, I'm starting to see that slow down again. And I have to believe it's seasonality.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the market's going to stay robust for the remainder of the year, but we can't keep up the pace that we have. And so buyers ask, you probably get this question all the time, if I pay here, am I overpaying and am I going to get stuck?
Right. How many years before I could sell? And is now the time to do that, or should I wait maybe?
So traditionally, I've been doing this so long, I've been through many recessions and crashes and stuff. And so we've always kind of told people, if you think you're going to have to move in the next 2 or 3 years, you should not be buying a house right now.
Yeah.
Like, as my mother would say, go lay down somewhere.
Yeah.
I'll let you know when this is over. But if you feel like you're going to be in this house 5, 10, 15 years, cycles are what cycles are, and we're always going to have shift. The bigger benefit right now is the interest rates, and we may never, ever see these interest rates again. So the win is your buying power is so much more than it would be if we were at 4, 5, 6%. I bought at 11.5%.
I was just going to say, when I bought my condo, I remember talking with you about interest rates and what we had paid for some of our homes in Arizona and what interest rates we got them. And then, here I am locked at 3.25 and thinking, oh, it would have been great to get sub 3. Exactly. It's a different world than it was 5, 10, 15 years ago,
Oh, absolutely. It's the new normal. And, when rates are that low, that usually means we're in trouble with the economy. They start raising rates, and that's actually a good thing, but not for your wallet.
Right.
So what I'm telling my buyers is, if you really feel like you're going to move in the next, year, now's as good a time as any, because the rates in a year could be different enough that it far outweighs the sales price issue.
Right. I tend to agree with you 100%. It's difficult. I understand why people want to time real estate so well, right? There's this idea of there's got to be an optimal time to do something, but it's such an imperfect industry. It's really hard to predict the exact right moment to do something, and whether or not that moment will be better than it was yesterday or better than it will be in 2 days, But I think to your point, you have to take what's in the marketplace right now. And what we do know is that we have interest rates that are being held unnaturally low to help buyers flood the economy, right? And how long that will last, I don't know. But for the time being, it's an excellent opportunity to get into a home, I think, even if you're overpaying slightly.
Exactly. People will say, well, oh my gosh, if I have to move and I can't sell my house, what am I going to do? Well, we don't want to face that problem.
Right.
So again, you need to do your homework and think, what's my life look like? But you don't always know what's coming down the pike. People lose jobs, people get sick. So all I can say is make sure you do what's best for you and your family. I definitely tell everybody to get a 30-year fixed if they can. And then if they want to pay early, do it yourself. But now you're hedging against something bad happening. So now if you need that lower payment because something in your life shifted, it's there. It's built in.
Right. Yeah. How are you feeling in your market that you have a lot to sell right now? So these buyers who are trying to make this decision, I mean, is there anything for them to look at?
No, I mean, every market's different. Every price point's different. When people say, what's the market doing? It's like me saying it's sunny outside.
Yeah.
Where are you?
Right.
Where you live. So the market here, if you're under $1 million, which sounds like a big giant number, but here, that's a very robust market. If you are under 400,000, people are like sleeping in the yard.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, I did have one priced at, I think it was 285. It was a little condo. We had 60 showings in 3 days. The people had to move out.
Wow.
And we had 16 offers. So that sort of craziness, I feel, is letting up.
Yeah.
Maybe buyers are weary. Sellers are afraid to put their homes on the market because where are they going? Unless they have a beach house.
Exactly. And that's the thing. They're going to pay a premium on the other end too, right? It's hard to say that they'll come out at a disadvantage or an advantage. It's probably net neutral if they're going to overpay and make more on their sale. But you're right. They still got to go find a home. And I think that's, depending on your price point, that's the hardest part of everything.
Well, and it depends. Like the New York buyers, now they were on sale. Manhattan was on sale. So for people to buy there, it's a win, right? Well, for people to buy here, it's not on sale. So it's very regional dependent. And I think that people are afraid to be on the wrong side of it, but you won't know until that side passes.
Right. Yeah, I have. So it goes without saying, I have a lot of first-time home buyers because that's just my friend group and peer group, right? That we're all kind of making this decision for the first time together. And I think that I've seen many, many first-time home buyers who are in the most competitive offer situations. And I think it comes back to what you said. It's just the price point. Here in Chicago, I would say your 400 number is pretty spot on. That 400 to 500 and below range is hyper active. It started to slow down. Part of that is because inventory started to go up, so there's more options. But that has been the most competitive marketplace. And I would say until recently, we really didn't see the luxury market moving at all. Luxury, maybe being over $1 million in this case. So that started to make a slight comeback in the last month or two. But I mean, it was really, kind of the faucet was turned off during COVID for a little bit.
Yeah, in my industry, my inventory is very light too. We really don't have a lot to choose from. And when you get something nice, it's like, the ants.
Right.
So I think that it has to shift over time. You cannot maintain this level of activity.
Right.
It's just, eventually everybody will have moved.
Yeah.
So, I just don't know when that'll be. I do feel like this summer we're going to start to feel something, but the fall push could be the same as every other year.
Right. So I guess the question that kind of logically comes to me is, throughout this conversation, we have identified there's a lot of buyers. Mm-hmm. There's not a lot of homes for sale. Mm-hmm. Where do those homes come from in the future? Do we think it's going to be a wave of new construction? Do we think it's going to be a wave of new sellers? Where's the inventory coming from?
Well, housing starts are up. A lot of builders in this area, it takes a long time to get through the process of development, right? To get it ready.
Yeah.
So a lot of them were really jammed up particularly with COVID. And now all of that's coming to fruition. So housing starts are up. so are the costs to build up.
Right.
New home prices are creep. They're going higher, higher, higher. And in my area, taxes are based on age. So if you have a new home, you have a higher tax basis. So that's even
Yeah.
higher, higher. So that is a market, but it's really actually less desirable to the average bear because it's at the end of the day going to cost you more money.
Right.
We're running out of places to build too.
Right. There's
So,
only so much land. Yeah. Yeah. My goodness, if you're having that issue, you should see downtown here. That's why we keep building these skyscrapers like on top of each other, right? I mean, we don't have the room to develop anymore.
I think
Interesting.
that the COVID fear thing has sort of, everybody's getting vaccinated now, and I think people are going
Hmm.
back to the cities. So the flight out of Philadelphia and New York and other cities, I think that's subsiding. So, and you tell me, your condo market, is it picking up yet?
Finally, we're starting to see it come back. It's interesting you say that the people are coming back to work because I'm downtown often, and the downtown like loop area in Chicago is really only the corporate offices. That's where people go to work. It's not really where a lot of people live. So it's been a ghost town for a year plus. I mean, the restaurants aren't open down there. People haven't been going downtown. There's really no life other than, I guess, public transit that has to run through it. That said, I went there this week and it was like a normal Tuesday, right? I mean, there were people everywhere. There were lunch lines out the door. You would not know that we were in a pandemic Chicago, which is the first I've seen that in truly over a year, I guess over 15 months now. So I do see activity coming back downtown. And I think that that's been the last drag on the condo market. Number one was COVID fear, right? And these high rises with elevators and conjoined amenities and things like that, they were either completely shut down or they were limiting the numbers of people or they were limiting who could get in based on vaccination status. That lifestyle became a lot less attractive to people, I think, because basically rather than getting like the full luxury building full service, you're getting a very diminished version of it that is COVID friendly. So I think that marketplace, we saw inventory explode. We have like 13 months inventory in some neighborhoods in the city because of that, right? It's a hyper overloaded market. But I've seen now that market kind of hit the peak of its inventory levels. The city started to wake back up. We're seeing offices announce June, July, August return to work dates. And now all of a sudden the condo interest is back. People are recognizing that in 3 months, they might have to go to the office 3 days a week, you know? And that's a totally different mindset than when they were coming into January thinking, I might never go back again, you know?
You're exactly right. And think about who the first time home buyers are. They're young people. What generation is that? We're past, is it generation X?
I think I'm technically a millennial. So I think the millennials are your home buyers now. And then below me is what, Gen X or Gen Z?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know.
I know. I'm a boomer.
The youngin.
But those guys, first off, that generation is not thinking of home ownership the way that even you did or even I did when we were that age, and we couldn't wait to buy a house. Well, that's not really what happens anymore because the young people get jobs and they're transferred. You know better than anybody. You get transferred 2, 3, 4 times. So you want to be in a fluid situation. So we're not seeing as many first-time home buyers jumping into these markets who would normally go into those city spots. But a lot of them want to rent in the cities. Your brother included, he's moving to Philadelphia to be in the hub of city life, and you did the same. That's a vast difference from when I was young, and that just wasn't the way people were going. So I think we're going to see a lot more rentals, a lot more young folk are going to rent. And so that's going to shift our buying food chain, if you will, because they're usually on the end of it.
Well, if it means anything, I would say that Chicago commercial and institutional investors tend to agree with you. Because if I look at our new building permits in the city and what's coming to the market in terms of new inventory, new construction, it's almost all rentals. It's just rental building after rental building after rental building coming up and standing up in the city. And some of that might just be COVID demand, right? These people who need to make temporary decisions a little bit longer, they're being driven into this. But I think in general, we've seen a generational shift to I'm okay with spending luxury, in some cases, absorbent prices to live in a very nice building as opposed to buying a 30-year mortgage, right? I don't know what exactly the mindset shift has been, but we certainly see it here in the number of luxury rentals that are available and coming available in the near future.
Oh yeah, and I live in Doylestown, Pennsylvania, relatively small town. And there's, I think, 2,000 approved rental units being built as we speak, taking
Wow.
over old buildings and so forth. And to my knowledge, they're all going to be 2,000 a month or more.
Right.
So
Right.
the theory is we're building them for the everyday person. Well, I have news for you. 2,000 a month is a lot for the everyday person. So
Absolutely.
I'm interested to see. There really isn't, the people that are waiting tables or working at the gas station or working at a local department store, are they able to afford that level of rent? It's doubtful. So I don't know that we're serving the right market, but we're going to see.
I agree with you 100%. It's a little disappointing to me that I keep seeing our rental rates go so high in the city, to the point now where we've even had rental restrictions and things like that being proposed. It hasn't passed in the city yet, but it's certainly enough of a problem that we're trying to address it. So I do think we need to figure out a way to get more affordable housing in general options out there.
Well, we have the greed factor going, right? Because people
Hmm.
see dollar signs, and I've even thought, God, if I had somewhere to go, I would sell my house because I could make out like a bandit. But that's what people are thinking, and they do it in rentals too. And the reason
Right.
is because they can.
Yeah.
They know there's a shortage. They know that they can jack the prices up, and that doesn't make it okay. So I think that'll level off too. But there's always going to be that guy who has that level of, I'm going to stick it to him because I can to help myself, and that's not good either.
Yeah, I agree 100%. All
You
right,
know,
so
it's,
we've talked sort of about the inventory. We've talked about demand in the marketplace. We talked a little bit about generational shifts. What else do you think there is that would be a good highlight just to our marketplace right now, or anything that you're seeing that's worthwhile for buyers, sellers, or curious right now?
well, I still think that traditional real estate is a seller wants to sell and a buyer wants to buy. And we're going to get back to that place where a seller needs to present their home in the most positive light and a buyer needs to make a reasonable offer and everyone meet in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
What we're seeing right now is sellers throwing these houses up and they don't fix a thing and they don't paint anything and it looks like who did it and ran. And buyers are like, I'll take it and I won't inspect it and I won't appraise it. And that's going to go away. So if I could give advice to any seller out there, it would be remember that your market is, look at this, I got some crazy thing going on. The market is going to shift and you're going to have to present your product just like that as a product. So don't stop fixing things. Don't stop doing the deferred maintenance items.
Mm.
Be ready for when you have to be. I used to tell people I want your house to be the prettiest girl on the street. Get back to that in your head.
Right.
Not only it's good for you when you're living in your home, it's a good practice to have anyway. But if you fall back on, well, people will pay and I don't have to do anything, I think you're in for a rude awakening in the not too distant future.
I agree with you. I think, well, in general in real estate, I think being prepared is everything, whether it's the sell side or the buy side. If you come into it with a sound plan of attack on how you're going to be successful, you're infinitely more likely to be successful than the person who just starts tomorrow and hopes it goes well. So I think for sellers, you're spot on. If you look at the marketplace right now, what is selling at a premium, what is moving fast, it's move-in ready, it's updated, it's people who have stayed on top of the updates buyers are expecting right now. And if you're a buyer, I think the people who are winning is it's not scary to be in a 16 offer, multiple offer situation if you're prepared. It is scary if you're the 16th one in and you're trying to get your pre-approval and you don't really know what you want to spend and you're unsure about the neighborhood. That's a really hard situation to win. But if you're locked and focused on what you want, you've come up with a plan, you have your pre-approval in place, I think you can be very successful, even in a multiple offer situation. So you just got to get ahead of it.
Yep. And, know your long-term viewpoint. And I know sometimes that's hard. Not everybody can look so far into the future, but think about, is this the best thing for you and maybe your family? Do you have to pay a little more right now to get that thing that you could, in the right school district where you could raise all your kids and get through their entire career there?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's worth paying a little more to do that. But if you're moving just out of maybe I'll move right now or out of fear, it might be time to sit back, drink your iced tea, call me, call Matt, and we'll tell you when the right time is to get back in.
My grandma would say, go lay down somewhere.
Go lay down somewhere. Good old grandma. She always had a good one.
Well, this has been awesome, Mom. I love this. I'm excited. So we started off by saying this is going to be a new series. You and I talk real estate all the time. It's just like a part of life now at this point. So moving forward, I think it'd be really cool to just share experience back and forth and to keep having these conversations.
So just so I'm clear, no baby pictures?
Yeah, none today.
Okay, that's
Maybe
coming.
in the future, but I have to approve them first because I know which baby pictures are floating out there.
Oh, yes, you do. Or I'll save them for your wedding. All right.
All
Well,
right.
thanks for doing this with me, hon.
Thank you. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks everybody for joining, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.